Hello. So good to see you decorated.
Oh yes, thank you. The sunshine has shown its face quite strongly in this room right now. So welcome back everyone to Tea at 3 Looking for Good. Here we are. This is our third episode. And for those of you still catching up, this is a show where we, me, Faith Schmidt, and Mr. Graham Kerr over here come together from 60-year age difference to talk about the things that we find throughout our week that bring us joy and the ways that we get to those things. And the idea behind this is to continually have an attitude of searching for joy, looking for good in order to find it when you least expect it. And if you're never looking for it, you're never going to find it. So there you go.
I correct you on one thing.
Sure.
Okay. We are 59 years apart at the present moment.
That's right.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday,
you.
By the way.
For one short month and a half, we will be 59 years apart.
Yes, that's right. We do want to be clear about this one. And tell us a little bit about this extraordinary backing that you have at the moment behind you.
Yes, we had talked previously about the idea of like the sunshine reflecting off of the ripples, and I found this image and I thought that kind of captured that idea
it is
pretty well.
It's flat out gorgeous because this is so mixed up. This is like a community of people where they're lighting up. It looks as if it's dark, like our time does at the present moment. But in amongst all of our communities, there's this reflected light of things that are good that are taking place. I just think that is splendid. So well done in finding it. Lovely.
I'll let you start this week and then we can build off of that.
Well, I've got so much that I need an hour.
Okay.
So, but I will be brief, which is for me very uncharacteristic, as you know. I must tell you, first of all, a very funny thing. A friend of mine called me up and said, "Who was that Englishman that was in your place last week with Faith?" You know, he looks a bit like you and he sounds a bit like you, but dear me, you know, it's just got a big face. And then she suddenly realized about 3/4 of the way through the program that I'd shaved my beard off. And my next door neighbor told me, now, you know, and she's a dear lady. She's such a sweetheart. And she is so non-confrontational. She's so loving and kind and hospitable. "I like it with your beard on." So I'm growing my beard back under an avalanche of two people who decided that they would. All right, so I'm just celebrating my heart out this week. It's been so good, and I've been in a trough about several things because things I've thought, gosh, this needs to be done now. You know, this is important. And it's not, and therefore it's a trough. And so I was dwelling in the trough, thinking that the trough was going to go on for some time, and it didn't. In several cases, the ripple occurred and the light sprang forth, and I could hardly wait to start dropping things down into my notebook that I know we both keep. So the very first one that I've got on this one is we in the state of Washington are allowed now, we're buttoned down tight, but we're allowed outside to meet with 5 people only, max, in outdoors. So earlier on this year, we put in 3 gazebos, open air gazebos, which are just big, about 12 by 12, just big enough to be able to get 5 or 6 people in to those round tables round it. But the trouble is when it gets cold and rainy, it's a miserable place to be. You know, nobody would want to meet out there. You'd have to be rugged up and covered with carpet and one thing and another. So I came up with a design for one of those mushroom type heaters that reflect down, you know, the propane gas ones, and with a table with a hole in the middle of it. And there, we've got the chairs. And then I thought I'd try and find some material which was almost transparent, but would stop the wind. And I found something from an industrial site, and make 6 foot by 10 foot windbreaks and have those able to be put at whichever side the wind was coming from. So the two sides were always open and the other side was allowing air through. So it wasn't getting attended to, and I was beginning to fuss about it. And then I get this email this morning, yes, saying we've ordered the stuff, and we're going to get it done.
Hey.
And I rippled. The top of my life rippled and caught the light. And for me, it was just such an answer. And I've got people that I know who are desperate to be with each other. We can't hug each other. We can't shake hands. But we're relearning what it is to love one another in a difficult time. Mm-hmm. Because you can't do all the normal customary things that you do when apparently you love people. Oh, give me a hug. You don't have to love a person to hug them, you know. But it feels good and seems to be right. And that's on the surface. So we're learning to love in a deeper way. And that we can't wait to be able to be together to find out what that actually feels like face to face. Mm-hmm. In a small group of people. So that is a terrific thing that came up. So I should shut up. And,
okay. Do you want to know what I got? What I got for my birthday?
Yes, I
do. It's a outdoor propane heater.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's not one of those big standy mushroom ones.
Yeah.
It's one that's just it attaches to the top of a propane tank. Because I knew I didn't want an electric one because it would cost ridiculous amounts. But we have a garage where I like to do projects in, but I haven't been able to do much out there because it's like 20 degrees outside consistently. And you just like can't even do anything with my fingers at that point. It's too cold. And so my husband got me a propane heater because we had a propane tank. And so you just put it on the top. You just like twist it on and then like latch it down.
Yes, I've seen them.
I pulled it out of the box and I was like, all right, this is awesome. It'll like, I can use it in the garage and it'll be like manageable temperature in there. And so we took it down to the garage, put it on the, and there was like this big tag that just had the brand of what the heater was. And it was
Mr. Heater. Was it called Mr. Heater?
I think so. Something like that.
Okay. I saw that in my research.
It was connected, on the like 3 little wires that do something. I don't know what the wires do, but there's 3 little wires and it was connected on over the wires with like a metal eyelet. And I was like, well, this is like a plastic tag that's on a heater on top of a propane tank. I feel like I should take this off, but there's no way to get it off. And so I had some tin snips, the kind of like really big scissors that cut through like sheet metal. And I was like, Jacob, hand me the tin snips. And so he hands them to me and I'm like, this tag is huge and I can't really see the wires that I'm like cutting it off of very well. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not cutting any wires. All right, here we go. Snip. And then I'm like, all right, the tag didn't come off right away. And then but I did cut part of it off. And then I looked underneath and I had immediately cut a wire. I had this gift for like 10 minutes and I just broke it. Like, just like immediately broken. I was like, no. And I was really bummed because I don't really know, like the most that I've ever done with fixing wires was I like redid a cable to like hook up my Ethernet to my house. And so I was like, okay, we could probably figure this out, but I don't really want to right now because it's my birthday and I just broke my present immediately and I was super sad. And Jacob was like, all right, let's go to the store and we'll get you a new tool. We'll get you wire strippers and it'll be another birthday present. I'm like, oh, you're right. Okay, I do like having new tools and like figuring out stuff. And so we went to the store, we got like a wire nut to like fix it. We got wire strippers and we went back and we like got the tag the rest of the way off and fixed the thing and turned it on. And it's still a little terrifying that it's just like a source of heat and fire directly on top of a propane tank, but it's built that way, so it's probably not going to explode. But no,
were you warm enough to be able to do something though?
I think we didn't leave it on for a super long amount of time because we were doing other things, but I'm excited to try it out soon. And like, I think it needs to be running for a little while. And it's an outdoor one, so I have to have the garage door open a little bit, but it's kind of dark in the garage, so I like having the door open a little bit anyway. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
I tried my electric fires. I have 3 different ones, and I tried each of those on my back patio, and not one of them worked at all. It was pointless, and as you say, exceedingly expensive. So you know, so we'll have a look at that. The second thing I'll be very quick about. I've been thinking, you know how on the news nowadays we get to hear that there are advantaged nations which are well off, if you like, and disadvantaged nations, those which are poor and struggling. And the COVID effect is disproportionately difficult whenever people are poorer and struggling. And it made me think how everybody's saying, when are we going to get the vaccinations? How quickly will we be able to reach this stage when 75% of us are clear, whatever? And I don't get the same kind of local news about when that's going to be possible in India and other places around the world. So I started thinking to myself, when I have my vaccination, I am going to take, which I can scarcely do, I don't want to plead now, but I have a certain amount of money and it's like an ice cube and it's melting. And I understand that. I'm actually counting the years that I can stay alive. But I'm going to pledge $100 for each time I get a vaccination to an organization which is distributing the vaccine in India. It's not much. I know it'll go nowhere, but it's a little bit like me. If I can do something, I would like to feel that I can do something. And if I talk about it, I know I'm supposed to lose my reward by doing that. But hey, I don't worry about reward. I'm kind of interested about how we can inspire one another to do something which is good. And I think we're one of the greatest nations on earth, should actually, as a national desire, want to reach out to less advantaged neighbors on this planet and help them as we have been helped. So I've been put in charge of the map in my community. We're putting together a large map and we're isolating different places and regions all over the world. And each one of us are going to be responsible to care deeply for one of those nations.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And we're just going to run a list of those up and we're going to put pins into the map for every time that we've got a commitment to care for those people. And we'll see where that goes. I'm hopeful that that's going to get multiplied with people who think in a church or synagogue or whatever, you know, hey, let's put a map up like that and let's pray for, you know, the world, or whichever way different groups want to respond to the world around us. Yeah. Then we can be like really, that ripple effect.
It's so nice to have, because it's such a like broad, abstract idea of like people who live other places. And I've done a
Yeah.
decent amount of traveling, and it's still like that only makes it like the world bigger, because I'm like I've seen like a few places and there's so many more that are out there.
Yeah.
And so the idea of having like a tangible thing, like a map that you can look at and be like, I'm going to care for some people here, and I might not make a
Yeah.
huge difference, but I'm going to try. That's great.
That's right. I am National Geographic. In fact, I've got it right behind me here. Have a map which is 9 feet long and about 6 feet high. And I've got a piece of my wall in this apartment here, which is exactly that size. And you peel the back off this thing and you stick it on the wall. And that gives me a whole wall world map. We'll have a look at it when I've done it. I'm a little worried
That's what
about.
you're gonna do? That sounds awesome.
I told you the other day I was using that crazy glue and couldn't get my fingers apart.
No.
So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen when I try peeling the back off this enormous map.
Okay, so with this, like, I don't know, you've told me enough stories now of you like getting hurt and finding ways to like find joy in them. So it's weird now that that's like an association that my brain makes, is like every time I hurt myself, I'm like, well, where can I find joy in this? Like Graham finds joy in that, which is kind of a weird thing, but I'm okay with it because you're finding good things. So I fell down the stairs the other day.
Oh
like
my.
in kind of a comical way, in that, well, we have a split level. So like from our front door, it goes like that. And I fell down just half of them. But I was just wearing socks and I just slipped on the carpet. And I've never not like caught myself when I've done that. And I just didn't. And I just like tumbled all the way down the stairs. Like
Oh
not
my goodness.
not like spinning or anything, but I just
No.
like kept sliding, half standing, and then kind of like fell at the end. And I got this, you can't really see it, but I know you kind of can.
I can.
I had, my arm hurt really bad for a couple days, but there was no bruise or anything. It was like a little bit red. I kept bumping into things, would accidentally hurt it. And I'm just like, I keep forgetting that it's there. And now just recently you can actually see it.
Yes.
And so the nice thing is I'm now able to notice that it's there, and people can avoid the bruise on my arm now that it's visible.
You have a real bruise. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. I feel validated for the pain that I experienced in my arm now that there's a bruise there.
So the next one is interesting. I think we discussed last episode, we were talking about this business of saying, we are broken. How are you going to fix us? And I got a response, which is each one love two. Now, I've thought in my life that I'm unlikely to come up with a very short, meaningful statement. I can write books on things, but when it comes down to a very few words, it really gets my attention. So each one love two. So I thought, well, I'll take that on. So the way I chose to do that is I got hold of my phone, and I went to the address list on my phone, and I've got about 130 people whose telephone numbers are on my iPhone now, and that's been added over about 20 years. So I just scrolled down alphabetically, and I thought, I'm going to stop when I get to someone that I haven't seen for a long time, that all of a sudden I feel excited about, and that I should call and just simply not love on them. Well, how do you do that? It's me. I love you. Yeah,
I know we haven't talked in 20 years.
We haven't talked in 20 years, but hey. I thought just the fact that I would call somebody might let them know that I found them acceptable to call. Now, that sounds ridiculous, but the word acceptance to me is a bit like being loved. You know, if people will spend some time with me, it seems that they accept me for who I am, not who I used to be or who they might like to think I could be, but they actually hang out, and that's a form of acceptance. And I think in a divided culture like ours at the moment, one of the biggest deals that can happen is just accepting people, each other. So I've started calling these people on this list. And I have had the most marvelous conversations. It's been so exciting. And I'm rationing myself to 2 calls a day. And I can't wait for a new day to look at my calendar to see where I can fit phone calls in. And it's just, I've gone all through my calendar for the rest of the year, putting phone, you know, and in every day. So that I'm doing. And I can't tell you how excited I am by that.
Yeah, that's
so I went,
a great idea.
I
There
just
was
went,
a while back when a friend from a long time ago sent me a message and I was like, oh wow, they're thinking of me, like that's so great. It ended up being like that they sent it just to like the wrong faith in their phone or whatever, but like recognizing that feeling of like someone from a long time ago thought of you, and like enough so that like you made an impact in their lives and they want to like revisit that. That's a lovely idea.
Yeah, and it's a bit self-serving, frankly, because some of these people I just have missed, but they just no longer in my environment. And so, you know, I can't expect anything. And that they could never expect a call from me. And when they actually, I'm actually on their machines, still on their machines too, because they say, it isn't. Is it really you? Yeah. And it was that kind of expression. It was just so special. And I know how dear your friends are to you, especially in this recent move. And I could only imagine what it's like even today after a short space of time, and you see a name crop up on your machine, and it's a dear friend, and they're calling you, and how your heart sort of, you know, flutters a little bit more. I think that's, and you know, it's finding ways to love in the 2020s. It's just not the same as it used to be. Loving other people 20, 30 years ago, which you wouldn't know anything about, was different than it is today. This high-tech thing and this deluge of emails and stuff, it seems like we want to clear the emails and not have any obligation to call anybody. Just give me some space. And the idea of filling that space with older friends and reawakening things which might take up more time. But do you know what it is? It's relinquishing space for people that you love and have loved and been loved by. I'm really excited by the idea. Anyway, so I've gone the extra mile. I called a friend of mine who lives in the city of Everett. Everett's going through a hard time at the moment. There's a lot of people from a lot of nations. I think there's over 100 different nations have made their home as immigrants coming into the West Coast and have wound up in the inner city in Everett. So I just called him and I said, I don't have money to give to it. I just want to be able to find some way of using whatever connections I've got to help just 2 people who are going through a hard time in Everett at the moment. And just before this program started, that friend of mine was calling me back to let me know who these 2 are. So I don't know who that is yet. I haven't a clue what their problems are going to be, but I do know that if I call other people who I do know locally, including the mayor of Everett, that because I have a relationship with them, there's a possibility of a relationship coming full circle to be able to help both of these two people. So I'm really excited about the fact I am weak in myself, but connected to others, there's a possibility of change. And that's when I think we as citizens begin to take control of our future and not always put our future in the hands of politicians. You know, we do have to take some responsibility for the people that are around us, I think. If we have enough energy to be able to do that. So that's
absolutely. There's a
I'm
huge amount of value and importance in being involved in your local community. That's one of the things that's hardest about moving from a place that I lived for 8 years and like had gotten like I knew a lot of people that lived there, moving to a new town during this whole time when we're not really allowed to meet new people or go places or do anything. Like I'm not connected to this city at all, just to the places that are outside. Like I was thinking of, oh, what memories do we have in Missoula so far? I'm like, well, I know this hike and this hike and this river and this hike and this mountain. I'm like, okay, well, those are wonderful things that are in this location, but it's not really part of the community.
Do you know, there's nothing we have to do today or tomorrow. And I think that means that we're striving after something. And I really think we should stop striving and start leaning. I want to lean into my life and not push and shove. And and be able to take some deep breaths and go looking for a peaceful way of understanding joy. I'd love to do that. I don't see any. And why do we always have to strive? What is it? Succeed, you know, or survive. Why not just chill out? I'll wind it up with, I have a new friends in Albania. I never thought I would know anybody in Albania, but and it's just too long a story to know how to do. But I found out that the wife of this dear couple with wonderful kids had been diagnosed with possibility of breast cancer. And she'd been given 1 month to go away and then come back for tests and that sort of thing, because, you know, they've got the COVID going on there and it was difficult. So anyway, she went back the test and she's free and clear. It isn't.
Oh, good.
So, and why is it I don't know this woman? I know what she looks like and I know what her husband, I know what their family does in Albania. And I was so profoundly grateful and touched that she was okay. And that told me something about myself. I am relearning how to love people who are very distant from me, who I just really don't know. And this mechanism we have today of being able to tap this silly screen and wind up in Albania, just like that. And it didn't cost me anything. I mean, this is, as a Scot, this is amazing. And I'm so facilitated nowadays that I wouldn't reach out and grab a hold of that and receive joy ripples all my life for the rest of my life. It's just so full of the possibility of joy. It's wonderful. So.
Yeah, I think that's something that has really brought you and I together in this process, is that we both have very similar dispositions towards like wanting to love other people in whatever way that we can. And that's part of why like bad news affects us both so strongly, is because our empathy is here. Like that's how we live our lives, and that's not always very safe because you can get hurt that way, but like I can't think of doing it any other way, because the idea that I could give someone love somewhere is number one. Always.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely wonderful.
Okay. Well, this has been Tea at 3 Looking for Good. Thank you so much for watching. I am Faye Schmidt. This is Graham Kerr, and we will see you again next week as we continue in this process, keeping this attitude up, looking for good.
Look for the ripples, guys. Look for the ripples. They're there.
I also really want to thank everyone who is supporting us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/tea@3. That is our current funding system. It's a crowdfunding monthly donation system, and that is how we can continue to do this program. So if you're finding meaning in this program and want it to continue, please head over there. You can do like as little as 50 cents a month, I think, and it would go somewhere, a little drop in the bucket towards moving forward with this program. So thank you so much to everyone who is already over there supporting, and thank you if you're willing to go over there and start supporting. Also, it helps us out if you subscribe to this channel if you're not already, and like the video if you enjoyed watching. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Bless.